Have you ever wondered why your spirit seems to wake before your body does? Why at the first light of dawn, you feel something pulling you back from the edge of dreams, like a force quietly calling you home? Edgar Cayce, the man known as the Sleeping Prophet, revealed something extraordinary about this moment. According to his trance readings, the soul doesn't just sleep when you do, it travels. Every night, it leaves the body to learn, to heal, to reconnect with higher planes of consciousness. And every morning at the breaking of dawn, that same spirit returns. But Cayce said it doesn't return randomly. It's drawn back by divine design. The rising sun, the rhythm of creation, the vibration of life itself, all are part of the same sacred cycle that calls your spirit back into form. In that instant between sleep and awakening, you're not just opening your eyes, you're being reunited with your earthly purpose. Before we continue, I want to know your thoughts. Do you believe your spirit leaves your body when you sleep? Leave your comment below. Your insight could change how others understand the mystery of dawn. When Edgar Cayce spoke about the soul's journey during sleep, he described something far deeper than dreams. He said that while the body rests, the spirit moves freely in the dimensions of thought and light, visiting realms that exist beyond time. In those hours, the soul reconnects with its creator, receives impressions from higher planes, and sometimes meets with souls it has known for lifetimes. That's why some dreams feel more real than waking life. They're not just memories, but spiritual experiences your conscious mind can barely translate. Cayce explained that each night, your spirit steps outside the limits of the physical body and into what he called the spiritual dimensions. But this isn't escapism, it's education. The soul leaves to learn and returns transformed, bringing subtle insights that shape your next day, even if you never remember the details. And according to Cayce, dawn, the first light of the morning, is the bridge between worlds. It's the sacred moment when the vibration of spirit begins to merge again with the body, when heaven and earth align inside you. That's why so many ancient cultures treated sunrise as holy. It represents rebirth. When you open your eyes at dawn, you're not just waking up. You're being reborn into another chance to fulfill your soul's purpose. Cayce's readings often revealed that every morning carries spiritual weight. The way you awaken sets the tone for your entire day. He said the spirit's return is like the hand of God, gently pushing you back into life, reminding you of what you came here to do. Most people don't notice this. They wake up rushing, grabbing their phone, complaining about the day. But the wise soul listens. If you pause in those first moments, you might feel something, a peace, a whisper, a soft sense that you've brought something back with you. That's your soul speaking before the noise begins. Cayce warned that when you ignore that voice, you lose the alignment that connects you with divine will. But when you respect it, when you begin your day with gratitude and prayer, you anchor heaven into your routine. That's how the spirit and body work together, not in opposition but in harmony. You are not just flesh trying to be spiritual, you are spirit learning to walk through flesh. And every dawn is proof that you're being guided, renewed, and called to rise again. Right now, take a moment to reflect. How do you begin your day? Are you conscious of your spirit returning, or do you rush through the sacred? Let this question sit in your heart. And before we continue deeper, do something simple but powerful. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Tell me what you feel in those first few seconds of morning. Your words might awaken someone else's faith, and together, we can build a community that starts every day closer to God. According to Edgar Cayce, the soul never truly sleeps. Even as the body lies motionless, the spirit remains fully awake in a different dimension, connected through what he called the silver cord, a thread of divine energy that ties the soul to the body until death. He described it as a line of light that keeps the two worlds in communication. During sleep, this cord stretches as the soul moves through higher realms, but at dawn, when the vibration of life begins to rise again, the soul feels the call to return. Cayce said that this process mirrors the rhythm of creation itself. The same force that brings the tides back to shore, that moves planets in orbit, also pulls the human spirit back into form. The first rays of the sun are not only physical light, they are spiritual frequencies that resonate with the soul's energy field. That's why some people wake up naturally before sunrise, without alarm or reason. Their spirit feels the approach of light, because light is its true home. In one of his readings, Cayce explained that this moment, when the spirit re-enters the body, is delicate. If the mind is restless or full of fear, the reintegration becomes chaotic, leading to fatigue, anxiety, or confusion throughout the day. But when the heart is calm and receptive, the soul returns smoothly, infusing the body with renewed strength. This, Cayce said, is why morning prayer or meditation is not optional. It's alignment. You are literally welcoming your soul back home. He even noted that many physical illnesses are not just biological issues, but disturbances in this energetic reunion. The soul, he said, tries to transmit balance, but the body resists because of negative emotion, doubt, or resentment. Healing begins when you awaken in peace, not panic. That's when divine energy flows freely through the cord and into every cell of your being. He urged people to treat dawn as sacred ritual. Instead of checking the clock or rushing for work, he advised sitting quietly, eyes closed, acknowledging that your soul has just returned from the unseen. Imagine how different your life would feel if you began every morning like that, aware that your first breath is a gift, a reminder that you are not a random creature but a spiritual being guided by divine order. Cayce's readings taught that awareness is the first step toward holiness. You don't need a church or a preacher to find God. He is present in the moment you awaken. Each sunrise is his voice whispering, "Live again." Cayce taught that while the spirit is away from the body, it isn't wandering aimlessly. It's being instructed. He said the soul attends what could be called schools of the spirit, where lessons from past lives, unfinished karma, and divine purpose are reviewed. In these realms, the soul meets with guides, beings of light whose role is to help it remember why it chose this particular life. When dawn approaches, the soul brings fragments of those lessons back. Most people dismiss them as random dreams, but Cayce explained that they are coded messages from higher consciousness. That strange dream that lingers when you wake up, that sudden emotion you can't explain, it's your spirit trying to hand you a piece of truth before the noise of the world takes over. He said that if humanity learned to pay attention to this transition between sleep and wakefulness, many of life's confusions could be resolved, because in that instant, you are closest to your real self, the eternal self. Cayce's readings describe this return as a kind of spiritual handshake between worlds. The body, still heavy with sleep, begins to pulse with energy as the soul merges back in. It's subtle, almost invisible, yet it determines how the day unfolds. If you wake up anxious or angry, it's not just a bad mood, it's an energetic misalignment. Your spirit brought back peace, but the body met it with resistance. Cayce encouraged people to consciously prepare for this reunion before sleep, with prayer or intention. Set the tone of your spirit, he said, and you will wake up closer to God. He believed that every human being is meant to live in a daily rhythm of death and resurrection. Sleep is a small death. Dawn is a new life. When you truly grasp that, morning becomes sacred theater, the resurrection of your soul in miniature. Think about that for a moment. Every day you wake up, your soul has returned from eternity, carrying what it learned in silence. And yet most people open their eyes and immediately forget who they are. Cayce warned that forgetting the divine rhythm leads to spiritual fatigue. He said that one reason people feel empty or lost is that they've disconnected from this awareness. They no longer sense that the morning is holy, but you can reclaim it. When you wake, take one deep breath and say inwardly, "Thank you for returning me to my purpose." That simple act of recognition invites harmony. It opens the heart to divine energy and reminds you that your existence is intentional, not accidental. You were meant to be here, to rise, to serve, and to love. Cayce explained that the moment your spirit returns to the body, it doesn't just reanimate flesh, it reawakens purpose. He said that every day the soul brings back a charge of divine intention, a kind of spiritual blueprint meant to guide your choices. That's why, according to him, the first thoughts you have upon waking are never random. They are whispers from the higher self, gentle reminders of what your soul came here to accomplish. But the tragedy, Cayce warned, is that most people silence those whispers before they can even be heard. They drown them in noise, in worry, in the endless repetition of yesterday's thoughts. He said, "You cannot hear God when your mind is louder than His voice." That's why he emphasized starting the day in stillness. Even 1 minute of silent gratitude or prayer opens the channel for divine direction. He explained that spiritual awakening isn't something dramatic or sudden. It happens every morning. Every dawn is a divine rehearsal for eternity. The soul descends, the light rises, and life begins again. Each time you awaken, God gives you another opportunity to live with awareness, to choose love instead of fear, to act from faith instead of impulse. Cayce said that the greatest mistake humanity makes is believing that miracles are rare. In truth, the sunrise itself is the greatest miracle of all, repeated daily before indifferent eyes. You don't need proof of God. You live inside His proof. Every heartbeat at dawn, every breath that begins again after the silence of sleep, is evidence of divine care. The universe is constantly inviting you to remember who you are, not a being lost in chaos, but a fragment of the infinite returning home to its source. Cayce's readings often included practical instruction. He urged people to align their mornings with spiritual purpose. Begin each day with a short prayer of willingness. "Lord, use me today as your channel." He said that phrase has the power to magnetize circumstances toward good, because it aligns your vibration with divine will. He warned that thoughts at dawn carry special potency. They're seeds planted in fertile ground. Whatever you dwell upon in those moments will expand throughout the day. That's why fear, anger, or hopelessness feel heavier when you wake up thinking about them. You're literally shaping the energetic field you'll live in for the next 12 hours. But if you focus on faith, gratitude, and peace, you build a sanctuary around your consciousness. The same energy that restored your body during sleep begins to restore your world while you're awake. Cayce said that the soul's return at dawn is not only a personal renewal, it's a divine reminder that you still have unfinished work on earth. Every morning, when your eyes open and your breath resumes, it means that God is not done with you yet. There are lessons to learn, people to forgive, acts of kindness to perform, and love still waiting to be expressed through you. That's why he considered awakening a spiritual covenant. You made an agreement before entering this life, to grow, to serve, to evolve, and each dawn is heaven's way of saying, continue. He warned that ignoring this truth leads to spiritual numbness, where days blur into meaningless repetition. But when you begin to treat morning as a sacred appointment with God, your entire existence changes. You stop moving through life as a victim of circumstance and start walking as a conscious participant in divine creation. He often reminded his followers that the soul's greatest desire is union with God, with truth, with purpose. Every time it returns to the body, it brings that longing back. That's why sometimes you wake with a strange ache, a quiet sadness, or an unexplainable yearning. It's not depression, it's homesickness for the spiritual realms. The soul remembers where it has been, but the body cannot follow. Cayce said that this longing should never be suppressed. It should be transformed into devotion. Let it push you toward prayer, service, and compassion. He said, "You are never closer to God than when you feel the need for Him." That gentle pain is the call of the divine within you, reminding you that no matter how material life becomes, your essence is eternal. So when you wake tomorrow, don't rush to escape the silence. Sit in it. Listen. Breathe in the light that fills your room. Know that your spirit has traveled across realms just to return for another chance to love, to forgive, to live with meaning. That's what Cayce meant when he said that dawn is the doorway of the soul. Through it, eternity touches time and God whispers life into dust once more. The question is, will you listen? If this message touched something in you, take a moment now. Like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me how you feel when you awaken each morning. Do you sense your spirit returning? Do you feel the presence of something greater guiding you through the day? Your reflection might be the light someone else needs to find their way back to faith, because every sunrise is not just another morning. It's a miracle repeating itself, waiting for someone awake enough to see. Cayce spoke often about water. how it holds memory, how it purifies, how it connects the physical to the spiritual. He said that drinking pure water upon waking is more than hydration. It's a ritual of cleansing the bridge between worlds. The soul has traveled through fire and light, through dimensions where thought is substance. When it returns, the body needs water to ground that energy, to translate heaven's frequency into earthly form. He recommended a glass of water, room temperature, taken slowly while sitting in silence. No rushing, no scrolling, just water, breath, and the quiet awareness that you are being reconstructed from the inside out. He also warned about the violence of sudden awakenings. Alarms that jolt you from deep sleep, he said, don't just interrupt rest, they tear the soul's re-entry. Imagine a bird landing on a branch, and just as its feet touch, the branch is shaken. That's what happens when you're ripped from sleep. The soul stumbles back into the body, disoriented, unable to fully settle. That's why people feel scattered all day, like they're only half present. Cayce advised waking with the sun whenever possible, or using gentle light that mimics dawn. Let your spirit land softly. Honor the transition. Your soul has been flying. Give it time to fold its wings. In his readings, Cayce revealed something rarely discussed. The soul doesn't return alone. It brings companions, impressions, energies, sometimes even the presence of loved ones who have passed. That's why you might wake thinking of someone you haven't thought of in years, or feel a sudden warmth in your chest, or sense that someone is near. These aren't accidents. Your soul crossed paths with theirs in the night, exchanged love, received a message. Most people dismiss these moments as coincidence or imagination. But Cayce said they are visitations, proof that death is not separation, only distance, and every morning that distance shrinks. The veil thins. The ones you love are closer than you think. He taught that children wake differently than adults because they haven't yet learned to resist their soul's return. Watch a child wake. There's often laughter, wonder, a sense of adventure about the day. They haven't built walls between spirit and body, but as we age we learn fear, and fear creates friction. We wake bracing for disappointment, rehearsing problems, defending against a day that hasn't even begun. Cayce said this is learned behavior, not natural law. You can unlearn it. Each morning is a chance to become like a child again, not naive but open, not reckless but trusting, not weak but willing to be surprised by grace. There's something else Cayce said that few remember. The way you fall asleep matters as much as how you wake. He called the last 3 minutes before sleep the planting time. Whatever thought you hold as you drift off becomes the seed your soul carries into the night. If you fall asleep angry, your soul wrestles with that anger in dimensions where thought becomes form. If you fall asleep in fear, you wander through landscapes of shadow. But if you fall asleep in prayer, in peace, in gratitude, your soul ascends to realms of light where healing is effortless. Cayce recommended a practice. Lie in bed, hands on your heart, and say, I release this day, I forgive all, I trust the night. Then let go. Don't force sleep. Just surrender. Your soul knows the way. He also spoke about seasons and cycles. The soul's return isn't the same every morning. In winter, when the sun rises late, the soul lingers longer in the spiritual realms, reluctant to return to the cold, dark world. That's why winter mornings feel heavier, slower. It's not laziness. It's the soul's resistance to descending into density. In summer, when light comes early and warm, the soul rushes back, eager to participate in life's fullness. Cayce said that understanding this rhythm helps you forgive yourself on hard mornings. Some days your soul needs more time to return. Be patient with yourself. You're not broken. You're just crossing a longer distance. Finally, Cayce taught that the morning is a mirror. However you greet your soul's return is how you greet God. If you wake with complaint, you're telling heaven you don't want to be here. If you wake with dread, you're announcing that life is a burden. But if you wake with even the smallest whisper of thank you, you're opening the door. You're saying, I see the gift, I accept the call, I choose to live today as if it matters. And it does matter. Every single morning matters. Because each one is a test of faith. Not faith in something far away, but faith in the moment you're given right now. The soul returns at dawn because God believes you're worth the journey. The question is, do you believe it too? What if your past never truly disappeared? What if every thought you've ever had, every mistake you've ever made, every quiet prayer you've whispered into the dark still exists, alive, moving, vibrating somewhere in the universe? What if those moments are not gone at all, but still shaping the life you're living right now? Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, revealed something that challenges everything we believe about time. He said the past is not gone. It's alive in what he called the records of the soul, an eternal field where every experience is stored and from which your present reality emerges. That means the choices you made years ago are not behind you. They are still echoing, influencing your emotions, your relationships, even your health. Think about that for a moment. What if the pain you thought you overcame is still resonating in another layer of time, waiting to be understood and healed? Cayce taught that by raising your consciousness, you can access those energetic imprints and transform your destiny. So before we go deeper into what he discovered about time, memory, and the eternal nature of the soul, tell me, do you believe your past still exists? Type your answer in the comments. Your perspective might open a conversation that changes how others see reality. When Edgar Cayce was asked what happens to our past, he gave an answer that few could comprehend at the time. He said that nothing is ever truly lost. Every word, every thought, every act is recorded in what he called the Akashic Records, a vast field of spiritual memory that holds the vibration of all that has ever been. According to Cayce, time doesn't flow like a straight river. It's more like an ocean, every wave connected, every moment existing simultaneously in the mind of God. This means the person you were as a child, the person you were in other lifetimes, and the person you are becoming, they all coexist, influencing one another across dimensions of consciousness. To Cayce, your soul isn't traveling through time. Time is unfolding within your soul. He explained that when you pray, meditate, or even dream, you sometimes tap into those past vibrations. That déjà vu you feel, that sudden emotion without a clear reason, those recurring dreams, they might not be random at all. They could be memories resurfacing from other incarnations, seeking resolution. Cayce said that the soul repeats lessons until understanding replaces confusion and love replaces fear. That's why some people feel drawn to certain places or relationships. They are reconnecting with energies they've known before. In God's design, nothing is wasted. Even pain is transformed into wisdom once it's understood through faith. Cayce often reminded that your past is not your punishment, it's your teacher. Through grace, God allows you to rewrite the energetic consequences of past actions by choosing differently today. Karma, he said, is not divine revenge, it's divine education. The same energy you once misused can become the foundation of your redemption. When you forgive, when you serve, when you love despite the cost, you're not just changing your future, you're transforming your past vibrations into light. That is the true meaning of salvation in action. Before we go deeper, if this message resonates with you, if you've ever felt that some invisible force from your past still echoes in your present, hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your reflection might awaken someone else to the eternal truth of the soul. Cayce described time as a dimension woven into consciousness itself. To him, there was no absolute past or future, only varying levels of awareness within the one eternal present. He explained that the mind of man perceives time as linear because it is bound to the material world, but the soul, being eternal, experiences existence as a continuous now. That's why in his readings, he could describe events from thousands of years ago or foresee future tendencies with the same clarity. He wasn't predicting or remembering, he was tuning into a vibration that was always there. The soul doesn't travel through time like a passenger. It contains time within it, as part of God's infinite consciousness. Cayce compared this to a record spinning on a turntable. The needle can move to any point on the record, but the song as a whole already exists. Likewise, your soul can revisit or re-experience any point within its own record through prayer, meditation, or divine grace. This is why he often said that healing is not about changing the past, but transforming your relationship with it. When you align with God's Spirit, The emotional energy that once caused pain can be lifted into light. Every act of forgiveness, every prayer, every choice of compassion ripples backward and forward across the soul's history, rewriting vibrations that once held you captive. To Cayce, Jesus Christ embodied the perfect mastery of this timeless law. The Christ consciousness, he said, is not limited to one life or one era. It is the eternal pattern that the soul strives to realize through many incarnations. Each lifetime offers the chance to bring the lower self into harmony with that divine ideal. That's why Cayce urged people not to fear their past, but to redeem it through Christ-like love. No matter what you've done, no energy is beyond redemption. The soul is never lost. It only sleeps until awakened by the recognition of its oneness with God. Cayce taught that when you feel drawn to make peace with someone, to ask forgiveness, or to return to a place that once carried pain, it's not coincidence. It's the soul calling you to heal a vibration left unresolved. What we call fate is often unfinished energy from another experience, returning so that love may complete what fear once interrupted. The grace of God makes this process possible at every moment. You can step out of any karmic pattern by choosing love now. That is what Cayce meant when he said, "Mind is the builder." What you hold in thought and emotion today becomes the energy of tomorrow, and can even cleanse the echoes of yesterday. Cayce also warned that the greatest danger for the soul is not sin itself, but forgetting its divine origin. When we identify too deeply with the material world, we begin to think of ourselves as limited beings trapped in time. But he said that the soul was never born and will never die. It merely passes through experiences to awaken to its eternal nature. Every lifetime is a classroom, every relationship a mirror, every challenge a lesson planned long before birth. The events of your past, whether from this life or another, are not accidents. They are echoes of your own creations, returning for understanding and balance. Cayce's readings made it clear, nothing in the universe happens outside of God's law of love. Even suffering is a form of guidance, pointing the soul back to alignment with the divine pattern. He explained that memory itself is spiritual. What you recall emotionally rather than intellectually connects you directly to the soul level, where all experiences are stored. That's why deep prayer and meditation can sometimes bring spontaneous flashes of insight or recognition. These are not fantasies, they are glimpses into your own continuum of existence. Cayce often said that when a person sincerely asks God for light, the soul opens its book of life. Within that sacred record lies every cause and effect you have ever set in motion. Yet even this record, vast as it is subject to one higher law, the mercy of God. Through genuine repentance and spiritual growth, the vibrational imprints of the past can be transmuted into new patterns of harmony. The energy of guilt becomes compassion. The energy of anger becomes understanding. This transformation, Cayce said, is the soul's true resurrection. He often referred to Jesus not just as the Savior, but as the elder brother, the first among humanity to complete the full cycle of soul evolution. In Cayce's view, Christ came to show the way back to the source, proving that divine love can redeem every timeline of existence. When you choose to love instead of condemn, when you help another soul instead of turning away, you are literally rewriting the story of your own soul across eternity. This is not metaphorical, it is energetic reality. Every thought harmonized with God becomes light, added to your record. Every act of selflessness becomes a thread that binds your past and future selves into a single fabric of grace. If this truth stirs something inside you, take a moment right now. Like this video, subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts below. Tell me what part of your past still echoes in your present and how you believe God might be using it to guide your soul. Your words could be the light another seeker needs to hear. In many of his trance readings, Cayce said that when a person prays for healing, they are not asking God to erase pain. They are asking for awareness of the lesson behind it, because in God's view, nothing unjust ever happens. Every experience, no matter how bitter, is the result of laws set in motion long ago by the soul itself. Yet Cayce never preached fatalism. He said that divine mercy is woven into every law of cause and effect. The same law that allows pain also provides the path to redemption. When a person turns toward God in sincerity, the vibration of the soul shifts, and the energy that once caused suffering begins to dissolve. This is why he believed that prayer can transcend time. When you forgive someone who hurt you, that forgiveness travels backward through your soul's history, transforming the original vibration that created the conflict. In that moment, both souls are freed. He explained that this process happens not only after death, but constantly during life. Each night as you sleep, your spirit moves beyond time, revisiting places and moments that need balance. That is why dreams, Cayce said, are sacred doorways between dimensions. Through them, your higher self communicates what the conscious mind forgets. Sometimes, an old wound will appear in a dream, not to haunt you, but to invite you to heal it. The past exists as energy, and through awareness you can bless it into peace. Cayce's words remind us that we are not victims of time, but co-creators of it. God's Spirit is forever calling the soul to awaken from the illusion of separation. In one of his readings, Cayce said, "In the infinite mind of God there is no time, only purpose." That single phrase contains the key to understanding eternity. To live in God's purpose is to step outside the prison of regret and fear. The moment you choose love, truly choose it, you are aligning with the eternal now. Then the past cannot harm you because it no longer vibrates in discord. You have reconciled it within the mind of Christ. Cayce taught that this is salvation, not a reward after death, but a state of consciousness reached through spiritual discipline, compassion, and faith. The soul's journey through lifetimes is God's way of teaching us to love without condition, until the vibration of self becomes identical to the vibration of the Creator. And when that happens, Cayce said, time itself dissolves. The soul becomes one with the eternal present, and every life, every era, every lesson merges into perfect unity. That is heaven, not a place above the clouds, but the awareness of oneness with God, here and now. Cayce often reminded his followers that awakening to eternity doesn't mean escaping from life. It means living it with divine awareness. He said that every act of kindness, every patient word, every moment of self-control becomes a vibration that echoes far beyond this lifetime. When you help another soul, you are healing your own record, because all souls are connected within the same field of consciousness. That's why he urged people to live not in fear of karma, but in faith of grace. Grace, Cayce said, is the love of God made active through your choices. It's what allows a single act of compassion to outweigh years of ignorance. Through grace, even the heaviest past can be transformed into light. The soul does not evolve through punishment, but through remembrance, remembering that it was never separate from God. He explained that when you enter deep prayer or meditation, your soul vibrates closer to the source, where time collapses. In those moments, healing can happen instantly because you are touching eternity. That's why miracles are possible. They are not interruptions of natural law, but fulfillments of higher law. Cayce said that Jesus performed miracles not to prove power, but to demonstrate what divine alignment looks like when a soul fully remembers who it is. You carry that same spark within you. The more you awaken it through love, service, and forgiveness, the more the illusion of time loses its grip on you. So when you ask, does my past still exist? Cayce would answer yes, but it exists only as long as you believe you are bound by it. The moment you accept the Christ within, the record of pain becomes a record of wisdom. The soul stops repeating old lessons and begins to create from a higher vibration. That is redemption, not escaping your past, but illuminating it with truth. Cayce emphasized in his readings that the physical body serves as a temple where the soul's memories manifest in tangible ways. He explained that unexplained illnesses, irrational fears, and natural talents often have their roots in past life experiences. A person with an inexplicable fear of water might be carrying the emotional memory of drowning in another incarnation. A child with extraordinary musical talent may be accessing abilities developed over multiple lifetimes. The body, Cayce taught, remembers what the conscious mind forgets. In hundreds of his health readings, Cayce traced chronic conditions back to karmic patterns established long ago. He would often say that arthritis in the hands could stem from misusing power in a previous life, or that respiratory problems might echo a time when the soul refused to speak truth. Yet he always clarified that these conditions were not punishments, but opportunities for growth. The body creates discomfort to get the soul's attention, urging it toward healing and balance. When a person addresses the spiritual lesson behind a physical ailment through prayer, meditation, and changed behavior, Cayce said the body often responds with remarkable recovery. He taught that certain birthmarks, natural talents, and even physical appearances can carry over from one life to another. In his life readings for individuals, he would sometimes describe how a person's current facial features resembled those they had in ancient Egypt or medieval Europe. This wasn't superstition to Cayce, it was evidence of continuity. The soul shapes the body according to its accumulated experiences and purposes. That's why some people are born with innate wisdom beyond their years, while others seem to be learning basic lessons of kindness and self-control. Each soul enters life at a different point in its eternal education. Cayce also spoke extensively about soul groups, clusters of souls that incarnate together repeatedly, taking turns playing different roles. Your spouse today might have been your parent in another life. Your difficult boss could be someone you once wronged, now giving you the chance to respond with patience instead of anger. These patterns, he said, are not random. They are precisely orchestrated by divine law to give each soul maximum opportunity for growth. When you recognize that every relationship is sacred, even the difficult ones, you begin to see your life as the classroom it truly is. One of Cayce's most profound teachings was about the transformative power of present moment choices. He said that because all time exists simultaneously in the mind of God, a single decision made today in full consciousness can literally alter the vibration of past events. This is why he placed such emphasis on daily spiritual practice. Morning meditation, he taught, sets the tone for your entire day and sends healing energy backward and forward through your soul's timeline. Evening prayer allows you to review the day's lessons and release any discord before sleep. Cayce gave specific guidance on how to access the soul's records consciously. He recommended a period of deep relaxation, followed by prayer for divine protection and guidance. Then, in the silence, one should hold a specific question about a current life pattern or challenge. Often, he said, impressions would come, not as dramatic visions, but as quiet knowings, feelings, or symbolic images. These impressions, when received with humility and tested against the standard of Christ-like love, could reveal the deeper meaning behind present circumstances. He warned against using this knowledge for ego gratification or to excuse poor behavior. Knowing you were a king in ancient Rome doesn't make you better than others. It might actually explain pride you need to overcome in this life. The purpose of accessing past life information, Cayce stressed, is always healing and growth, never superiority or escape from present responsibilities. Some people, he said, become so fascinated with past lives that they neglect the work they came here to do now. The present moment is always the point of power. Cayce taught that the ultimate goal of the soul's journey through time is to become a conscious co-creator with God. Each life offers new opportunities to express divine qualities, patience, compassion, wisdom, courage, in situations that test and refine them. The soul that has learned to love unconditionally, that sees God in every person and every circumstance, that serves without expectation of reward, this soul is approaching the completion of its earthly education. Yet even then, Cayce said, there are higher dimensions of service and consciousness to explore. The soul's journey never truly ends, it only transforms into ever more beautiful expressions of divine love. If you've watched until this point, take a moment to reflect. What parts of your past might still be asking for light? Write them in the comments below, not as confession, but as liberation. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Because if Cayce was right, and he always spoke from love, then your past still exists only for one reason: to remind you that in God's eyes, you were never lost, and you were never alone. The soul's record is not a burden to carry, but a map to understand. Every challenge you face today is connected to a lesson you're ready to master. Every person who enters your life is a teacher or a student, sometimes both. And every moment you choose love over fear, forgiveness over resentment, service over selfishness, you are literally writing light into your eternal record. That is the promise Edgar Cayce brought through thousands of readings over 43 years. Your past exists, but it does not define you. Only your present choices, made in alignment with divine love, determine who you are becoming across all dimensions of time. Edgar Cayce gave over 14,000 documented readings during his lifetime. 14,000 times he entered a deep trance state and accessed information that defied explanation. But among all those readings, among all the medical diagnoses that saved lives and all the prophecies that came true, there was one collection of information that shook him to his very core. Information about Jesus Christ that wasn't in any gospel. Details about the Master's life that the Bible never mentioned. And when Cayce woke up and heard what he had said, this fundamentalist Christian man, raised in strict 19th century Bible tradition, experienced the greatest shock of his life, because what came through him didn't contradict the Bible, it illuminated it, it completed it, and it revealed that Jesus' path to becoming the Christ was far more extraordinary than anyone had imagined. I want you to join me on this journey today. If this message is touching something deep in your spirit, drop a comment below and tell me what aspect of Jesus' life you've always wondered about. I'm going to personally mark each comment with a heart because your questions matter to God. And please, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. We're exploring truths that will transform your faith. Let me take you to the heart of the revelation that changed everything. The Bible gives us glimpses of Jesus as a baby in Bethlehem. We see him at age 12 in the temple, astonishing the teachers with his understanding. And then nothing. Not a single word for 18 years. The next time we see Jesus, he's 30 years old, walking into the Jordan River to be baptized by John. 18 years of silence. Where was Jesus? What was he doing? How did a carpenter's son from Nazareth become the most spiritually powerful being who ever walked the earth? The religious establishment has offered theories for centuries. He worked in his father's shop. He studied scripture. He prayed. But those answers never quite satisfied the soul, did they? Because you can feel in the Gospels that something profound happened to Jesus during those missing years, something that prepared him for his ministry in ways that went far beyond reading scrolls in a synagogue. In his documented readings from the 1930s and 40s, Edgar Cayce revealed what happened during those silent years. And these weren't vague spiritual generalizations. Cayce provided specific details that were later confirmed when the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered 11 years after he had spoken about the Essenes. Details that aligned perfectly with historical evidence that wasn't even available to the public when he gave these readings. According to the readings preserved in the archives at Virginia Beach, Jesus began his spiritual education at age 12. Not coincidentally, at the same age we see him in the temple, already demonstrating wisdom beyond his years. The readings state that he studied with the Essenes, that mystical Jewish sect that lived in community near the Dead Sea. These were people who had been preparing for the Messiah for generations. They understood that the Christ was coming, and they dedicated their entire lives to creating the spiritual environment that would nurture him. But here's what most people don't know. The Essenes weren't just teaching Jesus Jewish law and scripture. They were teaching him about the universal nature of God's love. They were showing him that the divine truth transcended cultural boundaries. They were preparing him to become a light, not just for the Jewish people, but for all of humanity. And then, according to Cayce's readings, something remarkable happened. At age 16, Jesus began a journey that would take him far beyond the borders of Israel. He traveled to Egypt first, the land where he had been taken as an infant to escape Herod's massacre. But now he returned as a young man, eager to learn. In Egypt, Jesus studied the ancient mystery schools. He learned about the eternal nature of the soul. He discovered that the great teachers throughout history had all been pointing toward the same divine truth. Different languages, different cultures, but the same God, the same love, the same call to spiritual awakening. From Egypt, the readings indicate that Jesus journeyed to India. For 3 years, he studied with spiritual masters who had spent lifetimes understanding the nature of consciousness. He learned meditation. He learned about the divine presence within every human being. He saw that the Father wasn't some distant, angry judge in the sky, but an infinite source of love dwelling in the heart of every person who would open themselves to receive it. Then Jesus spent time in Persia, where he studied with teachers who understood that the material world was temporary, but the spirit was eternal. Where he learned that every soul was on a journey back to God, and that journey required discipline, devotion, and an absolute commitment to truth. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. This isn't in the Bible. How can we trust this information? Here's what's profound. Edgar Cayce didn't have a college education. He had a 7th grade education and knew only the Bible. He had never studied comparative religion. He had never heard of the mystery schools of Egypt. He knew nothing about Indian spiritual practices or Persian philosophy. He was a simple man who taught Sunday school and read his Bible every single day. When he discovered what had come through him in these readings, he was terrified. He thought maybe he had been deceived by dark forces. He wondered if he should stop giving readings altogether. This man loved Jesus Christ with his whole heart, and the thought that he might be saying anything that contradicted the gospel filled him with anguish. But then something remarkable happened. As he prayed and studied and sought guidance, Cayce realized that these revelations didn't diminish Jesus. They magnified him. They showed the incredible dedication and preparation that went into becoming the Christ. They revealed that Jesus had earned his spiritual authority through years of study, discipline, and communion with the Father, that he had unified the wisdom of all the ancient spiritual traditions and brought them together in the perfect revelation of God's love. The readings showed that Jesus wasn't just born perfect and divine. He was born with the Christ soul, yes, but he still had to prepare. He still had to learn. He still had to grow in wisdom and understanding. Just like the Gospel of Luke says, Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. And here's where this becomes absolutely life-changing for us. If Jesus had to prepare, study, discipline himself, and grow spiritually, then so do we. His life becomes not just something to admire from a distance, but a pattern we can follow, a path we can walk. The readings emphasize again and again that Jesus came to show us what was possible for every human soul, that we are all children of God, capable of manifesting divine love in our lives. This doesn't make Jesus less divine. It makes his example more applicable. It means that when he said, "Follow me," he really meant it. He wasn't saying, "Worship me from afar." He was saying, "Walk this path I'm showing you. Seek God the way I sought God. Love the way I loved. Serve the way I served. And you will discover that the kingdom of heaven is within you too." The Cayce readings reveal that Jesus studied with the greatest spiritual teachers of his time, not because he lacked divine nature, but because he honored the process of human growth and spiritual development. He showed us that you don't bypass the journey. You embrace it, you learn, you grow, you transform. And isn't that exactly what we see in his ministry? Jesus constantly taught about growth, about seeds that become great trees, about yeast that transforms dough, about light that gradually dispels darkness. He understood the process of spiritual transformation because he had lived it himself. Think about the Sermon on the Mount. "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Jesus knew about purifying the heart because he had done it. "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." Jesus had studied peace with masters who had dedicated their lives to it. "Love your enemies, bless those who curse you." This wasn't just beautiful poetry. This was hard-won wisdom that Jesus had learned through years of spiritual practice and discipline. The readings tell us that when Jesus returned to Israel at age 29, he didn't immediately begin his ministry. He spent time in contemplation. He fasted in the wilderness. He wrestled with temptation. He prepared himself for what was coming, knowing that the path ahead would require everything he had learned, everything he had become, everything he had unified in himself. And when he finally emerged and began teaching, people were astonished. The Gospel tells us that the people in his hometown said, "Where did this man get this wisdom? Isn't this the carpenter's son?" They couldn't understand how someone they had known as a child could suddenly possess such profound spiritual authority. But now you know, those 18 silent years weren't empty. They were full full of seeking, learning, growing and becoming, full of studying the wisdom traditions of the world and unifying them in the revelation of God's infinite love. Full of preparation for the most important mission in human history. What moves me most about Cayce's revelations is how they deepen rather than diminish the gospel story. They show us a Jesus who honored learning, who respected wisdom wherever he found it, who understood that God's truth was too vast to be contained in any single tradition or culture. They show us a Jesus who prepared himself to become a bridge between heaven and earth, between the ancient wisdom of all peoples and the new revelation of grace and love that would transform the world. And here's what this means for your life today. You don't have to travel to India or Egypt. You don't have to study for 18 years before you can begin your spiritual journey. Jesus did that for us. He unified all that wisdom and distilled it into a simple message. Love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Seek first the kingdom of God, and everything else will be added unto you. Be born again in spirit and truth. But what you can do is honor the process of spiritual growth the way Jesus did. You can dedicate yourself to prayer, to meditation, to studying the scriptures, to serving others, to purifying your heart. You can recognize that spiritual transformation is a journey, not a destination. That every day is an opportunity to grow closer to God, to become more like Christ, to manifest more love in the world. The Cayce readings emphasize that Jesus called himself the Son of Man as often as others called him the Son of God, because he wanted us to understand that he was showing us what humanity can become when it opens itself completely to the divine. He was the pattern, the example, the way shower. He was saying, this is who you really are. This is what you're capable of. This is your destiny as a child of God. When you read the Gospels now with this understanding, everything takes on new depth. Every parable becomes richer. Every teaching becomes more personal. Every miracle becomes a demonstration of what's possible when a human soul is perfectly aligned with the divine will. You begin to see that Jesus wasn't showing us what he alone could do. He was showing us what we all can do when we dedicate ourselves completely to God. Greater works than these shall you do, Jesus said, because I go to the Father. He wasn't being humble. He was being literal. He had shown us the way. Now it was our turn to walk it, our turn to grow, our turn to transform, our turn to become lights in the darkness. This is why Edgar Cayce's revelations about Jesus are so transformative. They don't replace the gospel. They illuminate it. They show us that the path to Christhood is real, it's available, and it's meant for every one of us. Not that we become Jesus, but that we follow Jesus, that we walk the path he walked, embody the love he embodied, serve the way he served. The readings preserved in Virginia Beach tell us that Jesus' life was about becoming the perfect expression of divine love in human form, and that he did this not through some cosmic magic trick, but through years of dedication, study, prayer, discipline, and absolute surrender to God's will. He shows us that the journey is sacred, that every step matters, that preparation is essential, that transformation is possible. Let me share something else from the Cayce readings that will completely shift how you understand Jesus' mission. According to the readings, when Jesus studied with these various spiritual teachers across different lands, he wasn't just learning for himself. He was weaving together a spiritual tapestry that would unite all of humanity. He was discovering the common thread of divine truth that runs through every authentic spiritual tradition. In Egypt, he learned that the soul is eternal and that death is merely a transition. In India, he discovered the power of meditation and the divine presence within every human heart. In Persia, he understood the cosmic battle between light and darkness and how each soul must choose which to serve. And through it all, he was synthesizing this wisdom into a message so pure, so powerful, so transformative, that it would literally change the course of human history. The readings tell us something extraordinary about Jesus' consciousness during these years of preparation. He was awakening to the fullness of who he was, not just Jesus of Nazareth, the carpenter's son, but the Christ, the anointed one, the perfect channel for God's love on earth. This awakening didn't happen overnight. It unfolded gradually, through prayer, through study, through service, through countless hours of meditation and communion with the Father, Think about what this means. When Jesus stood in the synagogue and read from Isaiah, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor," he wasn't just reciting scripture. He was declaring a truth he had spent 18 years preparing to embody. He knew who he was, he knew what he had come to do, and he was ready to fulfill it no matter the cost. The Cayce readings also reveal something beautiful about Jesus' family during this time. His mother Mary knew. She had always known. From the moment the angel appeared to her, from the moment she felt the Holy Spirit overshadow her, she knew her son was destined for something beyond ordinary human experience. And when Jesus left to study with distant teachers, Mary held this knowledge in her heart. She prayed for him. She trusted God's plan. She prepared herself to be the mother of the Messiah, even when that meant watching him walk a path that would lead to suffering. This adds such profound depth to the gospel accounts. When Mary says at the wedding in Cana, "Do whatever he tells you," she's not just being a helpful mother, she's declaring her absolute faith in her son's divine authority. She had watched him grow in wisdom and stature for 30 years. She had seen the transformation. She knew the time had come for the world to see what she had always known. And consider Jesus' relationship with John the Baptist through this lens. John, who was Jesus' cousin, also understood his divine mission from an early age. The readings suggest that John too had prepared himself, though differently than Jesus. While Jesus traveled and studied, John went into the wilderness, lived simply, prayed constantly, and prepared the way for the one who would come after him. When John baptized Jesus in the Jordan, it wasn't just a ritual. It was the culmination of decades of preparation, the moment when heaven itself testified to what was about to unfold on earth. When you understand this, your faith doesn't diminish, it explodes. Because suddenly, Jesus isn't just a figure you admire from 2,000 years ago. He's a teacher, showing you exactly how to live, how to grow, how to become who you were created to be. He's a brother walking beside you, saying, "I know the way, because I've walked it. Follow me. You can do this." God is with you every step. The greatest gift Edgar Cayce gave us wasn't information about where Jesus traveled or who he studied with. It was the revelation that Jesus' life was a pattern we can follow, that spiritual growth is real, transformation is possible, and the kingdom of heaven really is within reach for every soul who seeks it with a pure heart. Before I close, I want to leave you with this question that I hope will stay with you long after this video ends. If Jesus spent 18 years preparing for his ministry, seeking wisdom, studying, praying, and growing in spiritual understanding, what are you doing to prepare for your ministry? Because you have one. Every person who follows Christ has a ministry. It might not be preaching to thousands, but it's loving the people God puts in your life. It's being a light in your corner of the world. It's manifesting divine love in everything you do. Jesus showed us the way. Now we get to walk it. Not perfectly because we're human, but faithfully because we're children of God. Not without struggles because the path has always been narrow, but with hope because we know where it leads. Back home, back to the Father, back to perfect love. That's the revelation Edgar Cayce gave us. That's the truth that will transform how you read the Bible, how you pray, how you live, and how you love. Now I want to hear from you. What aspect of Jesus' life has this opened up for you? What questions do you still have? What part of this journey do you want to explore more deeply? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I promise I'm going to read every single one and mark each with a heart because you matter to God, and therefore you matter to me. And please, if this message has touched your soul, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Click that like button. Subscribe to this channel, because we're going to keep exploring these profound truths together. We're going to keep discovering the depths of God's love. We're going to keep walking this path that Jesus illuminated for us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeking. Thank you for being willing to have your faith expanded and deepened. May God bless you on your journey, and may the light of Christ shine through you today and every day. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep loving like Jesus showed us how to love. There's something most people never think about when they go to sleep. It's not their dreams, not their plans for tomorrow, not even their prayers. It's the invisible energy they carry into the night, the vibration of their soul at the exact moment they close their eyes. Edgar Cayce, known as the sleeping prophet, said that our final thoughts before sleep shape the entire vibration of our spirit. They decide whether our soul rises closer to God or sinks deeper into confusion and unrest. And there is one habit, one simple spiritual act, that Cayce said could completely change that vibration: gratitude. Not just the words "thank you," but the state of truly feeling thankful. Even for the pain, even for the struggle, even for the things we don't understand yet. Because when the heart vibrates in gratitude, Cayce said, the soul becomes aligned with the frequency of divine love. Tonight, before you sleep, what vibration will you choose to send into eternity? Before we continue, tell me in the comments, when was the last time you truly felt grateful before falling asleep? When Edgar Cayce spoke about gratitude, he wasn't talking about a polite gesture or a temporary emotion. He described it as a state of vibration, a living frequency that determines the spiritual altitude of the soul. In his readings, Cayce said that every night when a person falls asleep, the consciousness doesn't simply vanish. It expands into higher dimensions of reality. The body rests, but the soul travels. It reviews the day, the thoughts, the intentions, the emotions, and it vibrates according to what it finds. Gratitude, he explained, is the bridge between the human and the divine. It is the key that unlocks peace in the unseen world. Most people end their days worrying, replaying mistakes, or thinking of what they don't have. But Cayce said that the soul cannot rise toward God when it sleeps in complaint. It sinks into the same vibration it carries. And that's why he insisted that the last emotion before sleep must always be gratitude, because in that state, the soul aligns with divine harmony. He explained that the mind, before entering sleep, is like a door slightly open between the conscious and the subconscious. In those moments, what you think, what you feel passes directly into your spiritual blueprint. That's why he urged people to give thanks before sleeping, not as a ritual of words, but as a feeling that transforms the entire atmosphere of the soul. Cayce said that when the mind falls asleep in gratitude, it doesn't descend into darkness, it ascends toward light. The energy of gratitude, he noted, is identical to the vibration of divine love. It attracts higher influences, healing, and guidance from the spiritual plane. And even when you can't see results immediately, he said that every sincere act of gratitude plants a seed in the unseen world that one day blooms in your physical life. Gratitude, he said, is not a reaction to blessings, it is the cause of them. Many people misunderstood Cayce because they thought his teachings were only about prophecy or healing, but at the core, his message was about attunement, attuning the mind and heart to the frequency of God. In one of his readings, he said that a thankful heart creates a channel through which the divine can flow. In another, he said that the lack of gratitude blocks the soul's ability to perceive guidance from God. So imagine what happens when you end your day filled with resentment, fear, or anxiety. Those vibrations carry through your sleep and shape your next day. But when you end the day in gratitude, even for the smallest things, you tune your soul to the same frequency that governs the universe. Gratitude, he said, is the vibration of creation itself. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, notice what your thoughts are doing. Are they replaying pain, judgment, or anger? Cayce said those vibrations become the dreams that disturb the soul. But if you gently shift your focus toward what you're thankful for, not what's missing, but what's present, something begins to change inside you. The heaviness lifts, the noise quiets. Your heart starts to beat in rhythm with something eternal. That's the moment, Cayce said, when heaven touches the human spirit. Because gratitude is not only a thought, it's a prayer. It's the purest way the soul says, I remember you, God. And when that feeling becomes real, the vibration of your entire being changes. Cayce often compared the mind before sleep to a mirror reflecting the state of the soul. If that mirror is covered with fear, guilt, or bitterness, the reflection that returns during the night is distorted. But if it's polished by gratitude, the reflection becomes light itself. He said that this is why many people wake up feeling heavy, anxious, or spiritually distant, not because of external problems, but because their souls are resonating with the wrong frequency during the night. The energy we carry into sleep is the energy we meet in the morning. Gratitude, he said, breaks this cycle. It restores alignment with divine order. When you thank God even without a reason, you open the door for reasons to appear. Cayce explained that the universe always responds to the soul's tone. When the tone is gratitude, it sings in harmony with creation. One of the most powerful things he said was that gratitude is not dependent on circumstance. It is the consciousness of knowing that God is still present, even when everything seems lost. He reminded his followers that Jesus himself, before performing miracles, always gave thanks. When he broke the bread to feed the multitude, he gave thanks. When he stood before the tomb of Lazarus, he gave thanks. Cayce said that gratitude was the secret code through which Christ aligned his will with the divine pattern. And when a person learns to give thanks before sleep, even when the day was hard, that person begins to vibrate within the same field of divine trust that Jesus demonstrated. Gratitude, therefore, is not weakness. It's the highest form of spiritual strength. He also said that gratitude opens the channels of healing. When a person lies down in bitterness or self-pity, the body closes its own circuits of restoration. But when you fall asleep feeling thankful, every cell becomes more receptive to life. Cayce described it as tuning the physical and spiritual frequencies into harmony. That's why people who practice nightly gratitude often report better sleep, calmer thoughts, and clearer intuition. The soul, he said, is never far from God. It's just clouded by forgetfulness. Gratitude wipes away that fog. It reminds the soul where it came from. It reminds you that despite everything, divine love has never stopped flowing through you. If you're listening to this right now, take a moment. Think of one thing that you can thank God for today. It doesn't have to be grand. It can be the breath you're taking, the quiet in this moment, the chance to begin again tomorrow. Speak it silently in your heart, because in that single act of gratitude, you're changing your frequency. You're lifting your soul closer to the divine current that Cayce called the Christ vibration, the energy of love in motion. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it transforms it. It turns darkness into wisdom and loss into understanding. That's why, according to Cayce, every night is an invitation to return to God through a simple act of remembering, to be thankful. Before we go deeper, if this message is already touching something in your heart, take a second to support this work. Hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment sharing one thing you're grateful for today. That small gesture helps spread this message of light to others who need it too. Cayce said that when we sleep in a state of gratitude, our soul enters a different region of the spiritual dimension. He described it as a field of harmony where divine helpers, what he called ministering forces, can reach us more easily. These forces, he explained, respond not to words, but to vibration. A grateful soul sends out a signal that says, "I am open to God's presence," and in that openness, healing and guidance flow naturally. But when we go to sleep with anger, envy, or despair, those same helpers cannot interfere, not because God withdraws, but because our vibration walls us off from his frequency. Gratitude lowers those walls. It dissolves the resistance that keeps the soul in darkness. Cayce reminded us that light does not have to fight darkness. It only needs to be allowed in. Gratitude is the act of allowing. It is the soul's permission slip for grace to enter. In his readings, Cayce often connected gratitude with the renewal of the body and mind. He said that during sleep, the body repairs itself under the influence of spiritual energy. When gratitude fills the consciousness, that energy flows more freely. He compared it to tuning an instrument. When the strings of the soul are aligned through gratitude, the body vibrates with health and peace. That's why people who hold bitterness often experience tension, exhaustion, or insomnia. Their inner strings are out of tune with divine order. Gratitude restores the music of life. It's not just a feeling, it's a medicine. A nightly habit of gratitude, he said, can transform emotional wounds into understanding, physical pain into peace, and confusion into clarity. This is not about forcing yourself to feel thankful when you don't. It's about shifting focus from what's missing to what's eternal. Cayce said that gratitude begins as a choice, but it ends as a state of being. The more often you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Over time, your soul starts to live in that vibration, not just before sleep, but all day. And when you reach that point, gratitude stops being an act and becomes your nature. You see beauty where others see failure. You sense meaning where others see chaos. You trust God even when the reason is invisible. That, Cayce said, is what it means to live in alignment with Christ consciousness, to rest in the awareness that God is love, and you are a vessel of that love. So tonight, when you lie down, try this. Before you close your eyes, breathe deeply and bring to mind 3 things you can thank God for. Not because life is perfect, but because He is. Feel that gratitude spread through your chest like warm light. Let it reach your thoughts, your breath, your heartbeat. Let it carry you into sleep. Cayce said that in that moment, the vibration of your soul becomes so elevated that even the smallest prayer can echo through eternity. That's the unseen miracle behind this simple night habit. It's not superstition, it's the science of spirit. The universe responds to gratitude because gratitude is the sound of the soul remembering where it belongs. Cayce explained that most people underestimate how powerful their final thoughts of the day truly are. He said that whatever dominates your consciousness in the moments before sleep becomes the pattern your soul carries into the spiritual realm. If you fall asleep in anger, you rehearse that anger in your dreams. If you fall asleep in fear, your soul vibrates with limitation. But if you fall asleep in gratitude, the energy of divine peace surrounds you. He said that our subconscious mind is the meeting point between the human and the divine, and it's never inactive. When we give thanks before rest, we send a direct message to that deeper part of ourselves, affirming, "I trust you, God. I remember that life is sacred." Gratitude, therefore, becomes an act of surrender, not weakness but trust. It's how we step out of control and into communion. The more you practice this before bed, the more you'll begin to feel an invisible peace wash over you, as if heaven itself is breathing with you in the dark. He warned that the greatest spiritual mistake is to go to sleep in complaint. Complaint anchors the soul in the lowest vibration of separation. It tells the universe that we are victims, not creators. But gratitude reverses this message. It tells the universe that we are awake to divine abundance, even when it's unseen. Cayce's readings often echoed the words of Jesus, "To him that hath, more shall be given." Gratitude is what makes you one who hath. It multiplies whatever light you already carry. When you fall asleep in gratitude, you send out a vibration that draws more of that same energy back to you. Peace attracting peace, love attracting love. It's a spiritual law, not an idea. The soul becomes a magnet for what it vibrates. Cayce said this law operates beyond the physical. He described how during sleep, the soul revisits spiritual planes where memories from many lifetimes are stored. In that space, it learns, heals, and prepares for the next day's challenges. When gratitude fills that journey, the soul brings back clarity instead of confusion, purpose instead of fear. That's why people who practice gratitude regularly often wake up feeling renewed, inspired, or more guided than before. It's not luck, it's resonance. The frequency of gratitude harmonizes the entire spiritual field. You can't fake it. The universe only responds to sincerity. A whispered thank you that comes from the heart is worth more than 1,000 hollow prayers. Cayce believed that gratitude was one of the most direct ways to draw closer to Jesus Christ. He taught that Christ was not only a figure of history, but a living vibration of divine consciousness accessible to all souls. When we thank God sincerely, we align our vibration with that Christ energy. Gratitude becomes the bridge through which His peace can flow into our hearts. That's why Cayce would often end his sessions with a prayer of thanks, no matter what question was asked. He said that thanksgiving was not the end of prayer but its highest form, because when you give thanks, you already acknowledge that your prayer is heard. You affirm that God is near. You step into the faith that transforms. Gratitude, Cayce said, is the soul's recognition of divine order, even when the human mind cannot see it. He often repeated that the universe is built upon law, not punishment, but harmony, and that gratitude tunes us into that law. Every thought of thanks aligns the mind with what he called creative forces, the living essence of God at work in all things. He taught that when we resist life, we cut ourselves off from those forces. But when we give thanks, we reconnect to them instantly. Gratitude is not denial, it's awareness. It doesn't ignore pain, but it sees purpose inside it. That's why he told those who suffered that their healing began the moment they could give thanks, not for the suffering itself, but for what the soul was learning through it. Because gratitude turns suffering into sacred transformation, he said that Jesus embodied this principle perfectly. Every trial, every rejection, every cross he carried was met with silent gratitude. Not because it was easy, but because he understood that divine will was always present. Cayce explained that this is the example we are meant to follow. To give thanks when things are good is human. To give thanks when life breaks you open is divine. That moment before sleep when the world fades and you're left alone with your thoughts is your private Gethsemane, your chance to choose gratitude instead of despair. And that single choice, repeated night after night, reshapes the vibration of your entire being. Gratitude trains the soul to see God in everything until it can no longer feel separated from Him. Cayce warned that many seekers spend years chasing spiritual experiences, visions, voices, revelations, yet ignore the simplest path to communion, a thankful heart. He said that the heavens do not open through effort or ritual, but through the vibration of love, and gratitude is love expressed consciously. When you practice it, even in silence, you begin to live in harmony with God's laws. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That is spiritual maturity. That is the vibration of Christ consciousness. Gratitude, he said, is the silent evidence that the soul has remembered its origin. It no longer fights the process of growth, it embraces it. So tonight, when you lie in bed and the thoughts begin to swirl, pause. Instead of judging the day, thank God for it, all of it. The mistakes, the victories, the waiting, the unseen blessings. Let your heart whisper it sincerely. Thank you for letting me live this day. And then rest. Because in that simple act, you've done something extraordinary. You've raised your frequency closer to the divine. You've joined the rhythm of creation itself. Cayce said that no spiritual practice is greater than this one, and if you make it your nightly habit, your life and the energy around you will begin to change in ways that defy logic, but not law. Before you close this video, if these words have touched you, help them reach someone else. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share one thing you're grateful for in the comments below. Together we can fill this digital world with the vibration of gratitude, and maybe one soul at a time, bring the world a little closer to God. As Cayce often said, mind is the builder. Every thought builds a pattern in the unseen, and gratitude is the pattern that builds peace. It shapes not only your inner world, but also the reality that unfolds around you. When you fall asleep in gratitude, your soul sends out a signal of harmony that touches everything connected to you. People, places, even the challenges waiting for you tomorrow. The vibration of gratitude transforms your future before you even wake up. It prepares the path. It cleans the energy. It reminds every part of creation that you are aligned with God's will. Cayce explained that this is why gratitude feels light. Because it is light. It is the language of heaven spoken through the human heart. Each night you practice it, that light grows stronger until it becomes your nature. He said that many people spend their lives searching for God outside themselves when the doorway has always been inside. Through stillness, love, and thankfulness, gratitude opens that doorway. It brings the mind to silence, the heart to peace, and the soul into remembrance. When you give thanks even in silence, you are saying to the Creator, "I trust you even here." That trust becomes the bridge that no darkness can destroy. Cayce believed that if humanity practiced gratitude more sincerely, wars would cease, sickness would lessen, and fear would fade, because the vibration of the world would rise toward divine order. Gratitude is not just a personal act, it's a contribution to the healing of the planet. So tonight, as you lay your head on the pillow, let go of the noise, release the endless questions. Let your final thought be one of thanksgiving. Say it softly within your heart. Thank you, God, for everything that has brought me here. Let that thought drift with you into sleep. Let it lift your spirit where peace resides. In the quiet of the night, while the body rests, the soul travels, guided by the light of gratitude. And when morning comes, you will awaken lighter, clearer, and closer to him. That is the promise Edgar Cayce left us, that the simplest acts, done with love, carry the greatest spiritual power. Because in the end, gratitude is the song of the redeemed soul. It's the echo of heaven heard through the human heart. And when that song becomes your nightly prayer, you no longer fall asleep alone. You fall asleep in God.